gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice and Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Azul, designed by Michael Kiesling, published by Next Move and Plan B Games. Now I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who will tell you more about the game itself.
It's actually a competitive game.
Yes, I bought this game for myself after we bought it for a friend of ours.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure how this was going to go over. I know it's a really good game, but you know how Julie feels about competitive games.
Yeah.
There are some she loves, but...
So it's not an in-your-face competitive game. You can try to block and you can try to, interfere with somebody else's game, but part of the game is basically having your strategy and playing with it. So anyways, it's intended for ages 8 and above. It plays 2 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes. I think the first time we played it took us a little longer. It depends how slow you are at making decisions on which tile you're going to play.
Yes. So what are you doing in Azul? Well, there will be a certain number of factories that is totally based on the player count. Each factory will have 4 random tiles on it. You need to decide what color tiles you are selecting from those factories. You then place those on your player boards. You've got specific slots and a limited amount of tiles that can fit in each of those slots. If you ever go over, those go as negatives, tiles that were destroyed on your player board. Everything that you don't use goes to the middle, and then you can also draw from the middle of the play area, but you can also get some negative points if you're the first person to draw from that. Don't worry, we cover everything fully in the how to play, but essentially what you're doing is placing those tiles and trying to score the most points possible before a horizontal row is completed. So with that being said, what time is it, Julie?
Well, it's time to grab our drinks. Grab our best friend.
We'll still be friends after this?
I think so. We're going to take it to the table.
I'm going to take it to the table. We're looking forward to this. I know we needed some more family games, and that's why I picked this one up.
This one's pretty.
Yes, that was the first thing you said when you saw the box.
I said
both you and
my mother, yes,
and sister-in-law, Lindsay.
All right. It's a very pretty game. It's very colorful, and I thought, I don't know how this will play, but I can definitely say it's pretty, and not to spoil the punch, but it's fun too.
Now let's take a quick look at the components for Azul. Now we'll start with the rule book. I do really enjoy this rule book. It's very straightforward, easy to use while you're playing the game. It explains the setup, gives you some nice visuals. You got the objective of the game, some information on wall tiling, and then of course the scoring at the end. It's only about 5 pages, and that makes it fairly easy to go through, especially if you also want to teach family members, or if any one of your family members would like to read the rulebook. It's not going to take them too long. Now, let's take a look at the components. So the game is for 4 players. We do have 4 player boards. Now we've got the score track here and our tiling section here. This is what's known as the floor, where if you happen to destroy any tiles, you'll get some negative points. And this explains the bonus scoring that occurs at the end of the game. Now, we have a total of 9 of these different factory tiles, tiles or tokens, whatever you want to call them. These are going to be placed in the middle, and that's where you're going to be pulling your tiles from. And there are a total of 20 tiles of the 5 different colors. We've got the poinsettia ones. Not sure what the pattern for the black and the yellow are. Then you just have your standard blue and red. Now we have the first player tile, which has some implications for gameplay. And then, of course, these little black scoring marker cubes. And the last thing we have with the game is the bag right here, which is for all of your tiles. They're going to live in here as you're going to be drawing them out in a random fashion as you play the game. Now, we've taken a look at the components for Azul. I'll come back at you with our instructions as to how to set up and then go into our how to play. Now let's take a look at how you set up Azul. Now this will be a 2-player setup, so there will be 5 factories that we are placing. There would be more with other players, all the way up to all 9 of them in a 4-player game. We got the 2 player boards, we've got our scoring markers, we need to set up the factories. Now, as there are just 5 of them, it's not going to be perfectly symmetrical. Apologies for those that like setups that way. Can't really do it in the two-player game of Azul. We also need to leave a space in the middle for some of the tiles. Don't worry, it'll make sense when we get to the how to play. Now we need to determine the first player. It's supposed to be the person that last went to Portugal. In this case, it'll be the left side player. And they're going to take out the bag, reach in and place 4 tiles on each of the factories. I just got to reach in, pull out randomly. So we got a fair mix of tiles. There we have it. Now we're going to just place this bag in the middle right here. You will be emptying it. Don't worry, there are ways that you can refill it. But now we've set up the game, so let's move on to our how to play. We'll take a quick cut and be right back. Now, how do you play Azul? Well, it's very simple. You need to score points by taking tiles, placing them on your board. Now, in this row, you can only have 1 tile, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's what you need to do to slide the tiles over, score some points. If you ever do go in excess, we'll steal these 2 for example. So let's say you try to place 2 here. This extra one would then end up as your -1. So you can only ever have as many spots as are open. You also can only place a color, for example, that you do not have. This is not a valid selection. This could also end up becoming a negative point. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to scoring, but just keep in mind that if you already have a tile that's scored, you cannot be going after the same color. Now, that being said, let's dive into the game. Now, this is player 1's turn. What they're going to do is take the 2 poinsettias like I've already been doing, place them there, and these 2 tiles from the factory go into the center. It's now player 2's turn. Take a look at what they want to do, and you want to try to do things that will let you score some points, because the way you do this, having things that are adjacent to each other. So just quickly, I'm going to borrow this blue and this poinsettia just to show you strategy. For example, scoring both of these in the same round, instead of 1 tile just scoring 1 point by itself, it would score 2, 1 for itself, 1 for the vertical. There was another thing here on the horizontal. You would also score for the horizontal, so that'd be 1, 2, 3. Just wanted to give you an idea. So keep that in mind in the strategy. This type of a score would end up being 4 points. That's the way you want to think and how you're going to be placing your tiles. Now, probably the next best move would be to take the 2 blacks and then place them there, shifting it back over to player 1, who wants to set up that score that I was just talking about, throwing all of this stuff into the middle. This would then send over to player 2, who can set up that score, throwing all of this stuff into the middle. So we've got a couple of decent plays, things that you may or may not want to do. Be nice to score blacks, can't do that. Could build towards the red, but there's a good opportunity to build towards the yellow on the horizontal. Now the first player that draws from the middle will take the first player tile, but it does count here as -1 point. This shifts it back over to player 2, who's going to dump all this stuff in the middle. Take the blue, the single blue, just to get a nice score. Now looking at player 1, we'll take the 3 blue for the score there. Makes sense for player 2 to grab the 3 red, get set up for another score, goes back 1, then I have no choice but to take the poinsettia and place it here. Now we move on to scoring. Well, not scoring, you could do your tiling phase. You move over all of your tiles from a completed row. Anything that has not been completed does not get moved onto the scoring board. Now here, you can move those. Now any excess tiles are returned to the game box, box lid, whatever you want. They'll be going back in the bag only after it's all been emptied out. Now let's take a look at scoring. We'll start with player 1. So at this point, we count out everything that has been scored and what is around it. So in this case, we would score 1, 2 points because of the horizontal. This one also scores for 2 points as well. 1, 2, because it has a horizontal. And this scores for 1, giving us a total of 5 points, minus 1, bringing the total to 4. Now, player 2 did very well here because we've got this nice, much longer vertical. So each of these essentially would be 1, 2, 3. This one becomes 4, 5, 6. Last one comes 7, 8, 9. So that's a total of 9 points that player 2 scored on this first round. So as you can see, building out, and I'm just going to use some of these tiles. Ideally what you want to do, for example, is try to get some nice scores in. I'm going to borrow this yellow. For example, being able to score this blue later on, put this one here. You'd score everything down the horizontal, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So as you can see that you can get some really, really solid scores as you play the game and keep building out your tile board. Now, there's this section here which details the bonus points that you get at the end of the game. The game will end once one horizontal row is completed. You get plus 2 points for each horizontal you have, plus 7 for each vertical, then plus 10 for having 5 of a kind. You can see there are 5 spaces for each color. Now, what you're going to do is the person that has the first player token, when we go to the second round, will once again set up the factories. I'm just drawing everything out quickly. And play is going to continue until the end game has been reached, or until the unlikely scenario that you have run out of all of your tiles. There's also a variant way to play the game. You can use the other side of the player board, which I will showcase in just a moment, so you don't have to follow the color patterns. It's for players that are more advanced in the game. I just need to reach over to grab it. You can see the other way to play. As you can see, everything is just open. And there you have it. That's just a quick overview as to how you will play Azul. And now Julie and I will be coming back at you with our review of the game. So, Azul, what do you think of the game? And you definitely need to go first since this is a competitive game and...
Well, you always make me go first, then you jump in and cut me off and add.
I try not to. I try to make sure it's a very, valid point. But we go back and forth. We've gotten a lot better.
Okay. So for me, one of the things that I thought was interesting, I've dabbled a little bit in quilting. So for me, this looked a little bit like quilting. And I, from what Jason told me, he said this was a fairly easy game to learn and easy game to play. So I thought this might be fun, family-wise as well. And we took it out over the holidays. And the first thing my mother said was exactly what I thought she would say. Oh, it's like quilting.
And then I explained that it was based on
Tiles.
tile laying, and she made a valid point. She goes, well, tile laying is a lot like quilting. One, you're stitching fabric. The other, you're using ceramic on walls, and it's...
Or floors.
Or floors, yes.
So, not to spoil the punch, but actually we are going to spoil the punch. And just to say it right off the bat, my mother won both games. And I don't know if it's the first time complete surprise to herself and probably to us as well. She just basically won it. And then the second time ran away with it. And I don't know if it's the, just planning out the quilt as she was going, or if it's just pure luck. I don't think so. But I think she basically, this was a fun game and she really enjoyed it. And my father, who likes visual games as well, thought that this was great because he could see everything.
Yeah, and your dad even beat me that first time as I made some missteps in my middle game that
I think
took
I beat
me down
you too.
to. You did. I lost that first game pretty badly because I made some mistakes.
I beat you the second game too.
Yes, like you said, the eye for quilting. But in any case, it's the first game I did very badly because I made some big mistakes.
You were trying to go big, and it kind of played against you.
No, it wasn't that. I got narrow focused, and I think that's a good segue just to say you can't be narrow focused in the game. You got to play the game. You got to have a strategy, but you really have to adapt to what's going on around you.
Yep.
And blocking is a very valid tactic as well.
Well, I would say you spent some time blocking, and that might have hurt you.
No, I didn't spend some time blocking. That's not what hurt me. What hurt me a lot was also a few times when I didn't get what I wanted, and then I got stuck with all the negative tiles. But what I mean by blocking is just trying to not give the player the best setup for them. You don't want to. You can't really block someone in this game. You can't stop them from doing the move that they want. They're always going to get to do it eventually. There's too many rounds.
I was going to say, I came in second both games, and I can definitely say my mother wasn't blocking. She wasn't paying attention to what anybody else was playing. She was just playing her game, and I pretty much did the same thing. I think only once did I make a conscious decision to take. I could have taken one or the other, which was equal to me. But if one of the two options gave my father, the next player, an advantage, so I went with the one that didn't give him the advantage, and that's the extent of the blocking that I did.
No, but what I mean by blocking is, and you're right though, in the early stage of the game, blocking isn't a valid tactic. It's something you need to pay more attention to in the later game because you want to just sort of look at the points, how you're scoring, and if someone could potentially finish that horizontal row and they're going to be so far ahead of you, you might want to try to stop them from completing that row.
Yeah, and I think, we used the first, I don't remember if it was the first or second game where, you noticed that I had 2 sets of 5, and, you were commenting that we wanted
No, that was the first game.
Wanted to keep me from completing, another one. Well, in the end, my mother beat, by everybody focusing on me not making it, and then ended up being my mother that won, because she was so
Well, she
close.
also did some really, sorry to jump in, but she scored some big patterns, and that's the fascinating part about Azul, is the way you score, is getting those tiles in. So, I mean, Louise and Jim were behind for most of that first game. I had a lot of nice combos I was scoring, but they'd end up building some cool patterns, and then later on in the game, they started sliding multiple tiles in, and next thing you know, it's like, there's 5, 10, 15... oh, this row got complete, you're getting an extra 10 points. And all that stuff just started stacking up in the right way, which is what catapulted your mother over.
Yeah. All that to say, it's a fun game that, even if somebody's really trying to block you, you can still play your game. There's still other choices that you can make. And you don't have to rely on that. You can just play your own game and basically try to get the best set possible. So for that, it's a lot of fun. From a component perspective, I like the quality of this game. I like the tiles. I like the boards. It's good quality. It's colorful. It's pretty, which are all things that I appreciate about a game.
And I have to say, Azul is a game that I'm not really happy that we have in our collection. I don't know if we're going to go out and get the other games or 2 other games.
But it looks
in the
like
series.
we might be getting one as a gift for somebody in the future.
Yes, I could definitely see the games ending up in the family, so to speak, because I really enjoy this one. I love its simplicity. Once again, the production values, the art. It very much feels like you're laying tiles. Like the player boards, everything's got that ceramic sort of style art to it. And that's something that I think a lot of games struggle with doing oftentimes, is incorporating their theme into just the components in the play. And I think that this game does it perfectly. So this definitely is a game that I'm impressed with, I have to say. It's one of those games that I would say, Because I don't love it, but I don't hate it. But I would have to say, just thinking about it from the quality, it's almost getting close to a collection essential, I would say. Especially if you're a gamer that likes to play with family, introduce your family to games.
Yeah, I would say this is an accessible game that most people can play. I'd even say, probably a little bit younger than 8 years old, if they have experience playing games. The first game, they may not get it right away, but it's definitely something that they'll pick up. So I would definitely say it's something that you could probably play with, a 6 or 7 year old.
So I think we talked a lot about the game. We talked about blocking, and that kind of expanded out into a full conversation about all of the different aspects of the game and how it works. I think we're ready to score it. What do you think, Julie?
Sure.
So what is your score for Azul?
It's a solid 7.5.
I'm going to give it a 7, just because it's not generally like the type of game that I love. But I have to say, just in terms of its accessibility and how easy it is to play for a family, like that's a personal opinion. I would say also mechanically in the way it's designed, it's almost about an 8. I think we both have a couple of things we don't love about the game, but I do think that Azul, if you are a board gamer and you have a family that's maybe a little soft on games, this is a game that you should pick up, because we've heard stories from a friend that we game with that like how his family just loves the game. His son always wants to play this.
Yeah, he said, one description they had of it is that they felt that it was chess-like from a strategy perspective. Because you can definitely plan it ahead. You can try to have a plan. I think it's still important to be able to adapt that plan. Otherwise, you kind of get stuck. But you also played it with the Cyberbard.
Yes, I did.
And what did he think of the game?
He really liked the game as well. He thought it was a game where easy to understand. We learned it at a board game cafe, and we had one of their experts just teach us. It was a little easier that way than going through the rule book. And after about 2 rounds, we were picking up, going back and forth. Definitely the strategy is a little different when you're playing at 2 versus 4 players. All of our players were at 4 players. I think I prefer the game at 4 players. But the one thing that he did say is that he mentioned that he thought his wife might like the game just because of the setup and the view. I don't think he got the quilting part, because that's not the way his brain and my brain work. But yes, if you have a quilter in the family, this might be a game for them as well.
Yeah. So I think we've pretty much covered it.
I think so.
So on that note, now's the time to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
Also, down below in the video description, you can find links to all of our social media feeds: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You want to see pictures as to what this beautiful game looks like on the table? Check out those feeds. Also popping up will be a link back to our latest video, and then a link to a related game. It's going to be a competitive game. I don't know which one we should put, though.
You'll figure it out.
Maybe something that's a little more family friendly. Probably Century Spice Road, or another one from the Century series, as we've got those games coming.
Wouldn't it even be from the same developer?
It would be from the same publisher, yes. She's getting better at this. Plan B Games, yes. So probably start off with Century Spice Road. We've got Eastern Wonders, as well as A New World on the way. Gotta say, I do love when games go on sale. That's how we've got all this behind us.
And everywhere else around here, which you can't see on camera. On that note, it's time to grab our drinks.
We still best friends?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Even though you tried to block me. I was just happy it worked against you. You tried to block me and you ended up losing.
That's not what got me.
Keep saying that.
It was my focus on yellow.
Yeah. Keep saying that. I'm just going to keep remembering that I beat you both games.
That's fine, because I'll just remind you that you lost to your mother, and this is not the first time. She also threw you down a pit and fed you to a dragon.
She fed me to a dragon in Clank. Why do you think I don't play the game anymore? And she does not recall it, but she did.
Even your father recalls it. And don't forget, keep playing games.
Keep playing games.